Recording from our respective locations, I'm Public Affairs Director Matthew Huffman, and this is Momentum, a webcast produced by your coalition connecting advocates across our state. So for this month, we are going to be having a conversation about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And joining me today, I have Mary Jones and Taylor Clark. Mary, Taylor, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to have both of you joining me for the webcast this month. It kind of got put together because both of you had reached out to me earlier on in the month to talk about some of the different activities y'all are planning to do. And I'll get to it in a minute, but there was something that really specifically stood out to me about both of you. And that was why I wanted to bring you both into this conversation, introduce you to each other, and then have us really kind of dig into a conversation about, you know, even outside of the month of October, how do we carry these awareness activities through the rest of the year and really keep that same kind of energy around getting our communities to really be invested in not only responding, but preventing domestic violence and really being that engaged audience. So with that, I want to turn it over to both of you though, so you can introduce yourselves. So Mary, if you want to get us started, you can just let us know who you are, the agency you work at, and then also your job title and just a bit about you.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. And I'm excited to spend some time with you and also with Taylor. So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mary Jones. I'm the community manager with the Terry L. Robertson Center. We are an 11-bed facility located in Lincoln County, Missouri. So my job entails supervising the program, the staff, and I do a lot of community outreach to work with agencies as we are serving the same clientele, bringing that together and forming those relationships. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Mary. And then how about you, Taylor?
Yes, thank you. I'm the Program Development Director at Susanna Wesley Family Learning Center. We're located in Mississippi County, Missouri. We have 2 locations on both ends of the county. One has our shelter, and then the other one we house our youth programs, batterer prevention programs. So I guess my role within the Susanna Wesley would be just kind of implementing programs, getting to know the community so that we can find out, you know, what is needed, or if we've already started programs, kind of modifying them to meet the needs, as well as just kind of observing and seeing how we can continue to push and educate on DV in our area.
Great. Well, the thing that really stood out to me about both of you is that you both have the word community in your job title. And that was actually something that whenever we were having those early on conversations, I even asked you, like, tell me more about your job title and some of the stuff you do, because that really stands out. And I think it's so unique to one, actually have it in a job title, because I think it's really important that we frame domestic violence, sexual violence as community issues. You know, these are issues that require shared leadership, shared investment, and that means really going out into our communities and getting them involved. So that was why I also thought I really want to bring Taylor and Mary together and have a conversation with them about this. So I wonder if y'all can just kind of speak to that for a moment. Like, how do you really define community outreach and the role it plays in your positions?
Well, of course, I'll leave community off when I introduce myself because it's so long. But I believe it's important to be present within the community because there's no other way for you to make them feel comfortable when they're faced with adversity and with these situations of domestic violence if they don't know what your agency is about, or if they're not comfortable with the people that work there. So just being present in the community is vital to making change in the community.
Yeah, I think that that's such a really important thing to consider. And I love what you just said, Taylor. Being present in the community is so vital. And I think, you know, for a lot of folks who are drawn to do advocacy work, sometimes that piece can be overlooked. And, you know, for the really important reason of when survivors are calling domestic and sexual violence agencies, when they're showing up at programs, they have urgent and immediate needs, and we have to be there to help survivors. But there is a really important element of bringing the community in alongside that too. So yeah, I love the way that you described that, Taylor. Mary, what about, oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was just going to, and I like what Taylor said as well. I think at the end of the day, a lot of these organizations that we work with serve the same clientele. And so my hope as community manager would be that if somebody presented at the health department having DV needs, that the immediate thought would be, I'm going to call the Robertson Center. Our law enforcement officers, the immediate response should be, I'm going to call the Robertson Center. Because I think, again, at the end of the day, we all are serving pretty much the same clientele. And if we can work together within that social agency circle and support each other and make those referrals as needed, I think it's at that point where we're really providing the best service possible. If we can't do something at the Robertson Center, we certainly can refer out to the health department or prosecuting attorney's office, these other partners that we've formed a relationship with, so that they will in turn reach out to us if they've got a question or a client in need. So.
Yeah, that's a really great point too, Mary. I appreciate you mentioning that. So much of our advocacy work is about connecting to those community partners and being able to provide really comprehensive, holistic wraparound services too.
Yes.
And so, yeah, being able to make those referrals and build those relationships to other service providers is really important for our community's overall health and well-being too.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
The other thing that I think is really interesting about that, and certainly isn't lost on me as I was having conversations with y'all early on, is that y'all are providing services to some of the more rural parts of our state. And that really underscores the importance of working alongside other community partners. And Taylor, I know when you and I were talking, you had just mentioned some of the dynamics really specific to Mississippi County. So I wonder if you might speak to that again.
Yeah, so Mississippi County is 480 square miles of rural area, 13,000 people. It takes a person about an hour to get from one end of the county to the other. And what's extremely interesting to me about Mississippi County is that it's diverse. You can get one culture on one end and you have an extremely different culture on the other. And that's okay, because my job is to bring them together. So just in, working with community leaders and trying to bring them together to bring awareness, it's interesting. Okay, thankfully, I have a background in education, so I've already built some of those relationships, but now I get to do it on a different level. And I think that's what helps Susanna Wesley, because we have connections with educators, as well as we have these amazing advocates here that know advocacy inside and out. I'm still learning the advocacy portion of it, or the advocate portion of it. But as an educator, I know what gets our youth and young adults ticking, how to have those in-depth conversations where they're actually listening and giving me their ideas and building off of that, so that we can bring everything that we're trying to do to follow our mission to build healthy families together.
Taylor, where is Mississippi County?
So Mississippi County is about 2 hours from St. Louis. It's right on the border of Illinois as well.
Okay. Are you south then?
Southeastern Missouri.
Okay, gotcha.
Are you
Okay.
familiar with Cape Girardeau?
Yep.
Southeast Missouri. Yep. So we're about 45 minutes from there.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And then Mary, can you just talk a bit about some of the dynamics that are unique to you all in Lincoln County?
Sure. I think just what Taylor said, we are a rural community and we've got the gamut of people that live here. And probably it's the same with Taylor's community. I think a lot of struggles for people here in Lincoln County, at least the clients that we serve, lack of transportation, lack of affordable housing. A lot of our folks don't have the means to get anywhere. And if I would say anything positive has come out of COVID so far, it's that we've all been able to create a world where we can connect virtually. A lot of our folks don't have access to reliable internet. So that is an issue, I think, with the whole virtual learning thing with the schools and that. But we serve a gamut as well. We've got people that probably never have heard of most of the social service agencies. And then we've got folks that are probably accessing a lot of them. So there are challenges with the rural community, absolutely. And I think it makes it more important than ever to bring those resources together because there's not as many resources out here. So the ones that are out here, I feel like bringing them together and offering them collectively is a great idea.
And you know, that's something that I was really excited to be able to talk to both of you about too, because in talking to you both individually earlier in the month, what stood out to me is both of you are so really keenly aware of the dynamics of the county that you serve and just the really specific needs of the folks there. And that's such a really important part of our advocacy work is knowing who is in your community, what resources do we really need to make sure folks have access to, and how are we connecting with other folks to make sure that we are building those healthy communities where everybody can thrive, where people have every opportunity to really feel connected and be part of a community. And so in talking to y'all individually, that just stood out to me so much that you two are really keenly aware of those dynamics.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month after all, so I want to get us talking a little more specifically about that. And, you know, just giving folks kind of an idea of the history of it. So with the very first celebration back in 1981, National Day of Unity, and thinking about how far we've come since then. Having a singular day of unity back in the early 80s, and now in 2020, we have an entire month, but we're having conversations as a field now of, you know, it goes beyond just the month. We have to be a really united voice and a united movement the entire year around, not just in the month of October. So I wanted us to kind of carry through that theme of unity through our conversation too. And so really thinking about how you all are working to unify your communities as well. So Mary, I want to get started with you. You shared some really, really exciting stuff that y'all are doing in Lincoln County and at the Robertson Center. So yeah, share all of that with us now too.
Okay. Thank you. So we wanted to make we've got a Facebook page and we wanted to make a post every day during the month of October. We've got Saturday statistics, Sunday survivor story. We're doing a Meet the Advocate where we've got a photo of each of our advocates on different days with a little blurb about them. I was hesitant about the photos because I didn't know how everybody felt about having their photo on our Facebook page. But probably, and the one thing that led me to contact Matthew was one of our advocates had spearheaded a silhouette project. So 10 cutouts were made, full-size wooden cutouts were made, and then there's a couple of just rectangular boards stating Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the Robertson Center, but each of these 10 silhouettes has a statement that we've heard over the years as advocates. And that was put out on our Facebook page, and the response from that was overwhelming. And I wrote down some statistics. The last time I checked, it's been shared. Okay, so let me go back a little bit. We had 700 likes to our page initially when we started the DV Awareness Month, and I think now we're up to 13,000 if I'm not mistaken.
That's amazing.
So the display has had over 230,000 shares. We've had over 1,400 comments on each of the individual pictures and then just the display as a whole. And then it's been viewed, or it says over 18 million people have been reached by that post. And so when I talked to Matthew, I said, I think what's happened is it's not the Robertson Center, it's what those silhouettes represented and how I feel like it's been given a platform and a voice for the voiceless. People feel compelled to have a safe spot to write their story, and they've commented and they've written stories, some recent, some are still in their situations. Quite a few people reached out and said, hey, where are the men represented? Even though a lot of them are gender neutral statements, the cutout is of a female. And so that's something that we are definitely going to take into consideration moving forward. But I feel like that post has given a platform for people to share a story about themselves, a family member, somebody that they know, somebody reaching out saying, hey, how can I get out of my situation? Or how can I help my friend Taylor, and things like that. So it's just been overwhelming. We started out trying to answer each comment individually. I'm not a big social media person, but I would check that all the time. And there was literally hundreds that would come through, and so we'd have 2 or 3 people trying to keep up with those comments. And it's just been overwhelming. I have received an email from one of our news stations in St. Louis asking to do a story on it. So that's kind of in the works right now, but we're just really proud to be able to offer that platform for people to reach out from all over the country and ask questions and start that conversation. So we're really proud of that. We also have our Candlelight Digital this Friday, and then we're doing some lunch and learns through Facebook Live, talking about safety planning, legal advocacy, DV 101, and I think we've got one this Thursday. It's why do they go back? Why do they stay? Why did they go back? Because that's a real big, I think, misconception in the community that I'm in a DV situation and boy, it's going to be easy to leave. So we want to talk about that and things. So that's pretty much what we've got going on here at the Robertson Center.
That's a lot of really incredible and really inspiring work that you all are doing at the Robertson Center. Just that reach of being able to have 18 million people connected, or who have seen it, or who are impacted by it in any way. That is such a really incredible reach, Mary. And what a really cool opportunity for the Robertson Center to show that sort of leadership in your community, and that survivors immediately picked up on, this is a really important space for us to connect with one another, to share our story.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we feel humbled to be able to provide that platform. Just shows that there's a lot of folks out there from all walks of life touched by DV, and at the end of the day, we all want to help people get through it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what a really cool opportunity too. So you all having these silhouettes and then posting pictures, and so many people who connected with that and saw their own experience or connected in any way, and felt compared to really want to connect and share in that too.
Right. And some people would just say, this is me. This was me 5 years ago. Boy, this sounds like something I said a million times. It was just stories that I think as advocates we've all heard. But I think maybe seeing and reading those really inspired a lot of people to talk about their own situation. So,
yeah. Well, Mary, thank you so much for reaching out and sharing that. Taylor, I want to turn it over to you and just see, one, do you think that that's something that could be recreated? But then also to highlight a lot of the really cool stuff that you're working on down in Mississippi County too.
Definitely think that's something I would be honored to recreate. What's interesting about that is I was speaking with our crime victims advocate yesterday, and she mentioned the silhouettes, and we were even talking about maybe if volunteers wanted to stand out for a certain amount of time to bring awareness, and using the statistics of the people that we've served or the women that we've served here in Mississippi County. So to hear that and to hear how, you know, it just thrived is just a further confirmation that it needs to happen.
Yes.
Now, I mean, now's the time when you have those thoughts, that great idea like that to implement change. You've done it, so I commend you on that, Mary. Susanna Wesley, we've done a few things actually, starting with the schools because, you know, I'm educator bound. It's tied to my heart. I did not know much about domestic violence before coming to Susanna Wesley. I remember watching a PSA because I taught drama as well and wanting to recreate a domestic violence PSA, but I was so misinformed. I only thought of the violent aspect of it. I didn't understand that there's financial abuse, mental abuse. And so I'm thankful that I'm here now so that when I do have these conversations with our youth or young adults, then I can go more in depth. So I created a lesson plan for the school districts in Mississippi County so that they can briefly talk with students about domestic violence, just to simply start having the conversation for elementary and up. So with elementary students, you know, bringing awareness to the purple ribbon, coloring it, talking about their hands. One of the coloring sheets I gave them says, hands are not for fighting, I believe. So having that conversation, what can we do with our hands? Okay, so why is it important that we don't fight with our hands? Or who should we talk to? Or why is it important to talk when we're scared or in danger? Making that a normal conversation will further help in the future, you know, make them feel comfortable if they are ever in a situation of domestic violence. And then for the older students, there was a great article that the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence put up about the origin or the hue purple, why they chose that. And it talked about the women's suffrage movement and how originally they used white, gold, and purple. So just providing that article to those students so that they can start a conversation with, you know, okay, if we wanted to create a movement, what colors will we use? Just to really get them thinking. I also shared a great Super Bowl PSA. It was simple, nonviolent, but talked about, I guess, strategies that victims could use if they find themselves in a situation. The young lady called 911, but she asked for pizza. And the guy was like, what? This is 911. And she just insisted, you know, and he finally understood that she was in a situation where she needed help. And so that
great idea.
Understanding that could save a life, you know? So we have that going on with the schools, pushing Purple Thursday, of course. So they're involved. Hopefully we can paint the schools and Mississippi County purple on Purple Thursday. Local businesses have allowed us to post ribbons in front of their locations. So yeah, that going on. That's what I was doing before I got on this call and what I have to do when I get off, but that's okay. Because unfortunately, a lot of people do not know about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So our goal here at Susanna Wesley is that this does become normal, not only in October, but to just continuously bring awareness to it. And most importantly, my favorite, what I'm most proud of, I talked with Matthew actually, and I don't remember if I got the idea when we were on the phone about the email blast with the debit cards. I don't remember. I just know Matthew was involved. But we have partnered with Focus Bank, and we have another bank that says they may be able to do it, but Focus said they would create a purple debit card honoring domestic violence. And I think this is huge because
I love that.
yeah, it's
That's
huge.
a great idea.
because when they send out that email, notifying their members, they get facts about domestic violence awareness. And then this is a card that they can have. Some people hold on to a card until it expires and they can get the same one. It can spark a conversation at the grocery store. Hey, oh, I love that card. Why purple? What is that for? And it can just bring awareness on so many levels.
Great idea.
Focus, I know that they serve Missouri, but I also believe they serve Arkansas. So if we can get just, our local banks and bring it to a broader level, national banks, think of how much change that would bring, bringing this to the conversation.
Right.
So I'm just super excited about it. I almost cried when she called me back.
That's great. That's just a good way to keep that continued conversation going, like you said, all year long. That's a great idea.
So I'm excited about it. I'm so ready for Purple Thursday, just to see what happens, and hopefully this will be, especially like within the school, something that they just continuously do without us even calling. Hopefully they'll be inviting us an event that they're holding. That's what I see in the future. I'm speaking it into existence. Someone write this day down.
Yep, if you put it out into the universe, it'll happen, right?
Yes.
Well, Taylor, I love those ideas so much. I think when you and I were talking about it, you were waiting on a callback. You had pitched it, and you were waiting on the callback to see if it could be approved to get the debit cards in purple. And I was so excited when you told me that idea, because it's something that I would have never thought of, reaching out to a bank and having that bank be an ally in really pushing out domestic violence awareness and education year round. Like, what a really, really cool opportunity to partner with someone else in your community to do that. And then I love, oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off, Mary.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's a great idea. I love that idea. Taylor, can I ask you a question about it? Do you think it would be, or Matthew too, beneficial to put the National Domestic Violence Hotline number somewhere on the card?
I didn't think about that. I tried to just keep it as bland as possible. I did put just a simple purple ribbon, but that's super important though. I think even if we could include it maybe in the writing on the back, because I couldn't put, in trying to design it, I couldn't put too much, because you have to think about the logos, whether the bank's name, then is it Visa or MasterCard? You have the numbers, the name of the person. So there's not much space. But if that could at least be in purple on the back, where it stands out, that's definitely something I need to write down and see if that can take place.
I think that's a really good point, Mary. And yeah, Taylor, if you are running out of space on the card, at least in the email blast that goes out about it, linking to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, linking to Susanna Wesley, they're right in the region, so the folks know about you all too. Yeah, such a really, really cool idea.
It is, yes.
I also love how immediately after you started talking about it, Taylor, Mary, you had ideas, and then this really quickly just turned into like a think tank, right? And just generating ideas to really keep that same kind of energy and excitement around it.
Yes, definitely.
Keep the energy.
Yep. And something else that you said, Taylor, that I wanted to just kind of lift up is creating the lesson plan for schools to use. That's a really great way of, one, you leaning on your strengths as an educator, knowing that educators need those lesson plans, but really giving that history of, why the color purple was chosen, and that originally it was purple, white, and gold. And then even sparking that creativity for young folks to think about, if you were going to start a social movement, what colors would you choose? That's such a really cool way of connecting history and context, and also giving youth leadership ideas of, now if you were going to create a movement, what would you do?
Yes, and actually, I just got a notification. One of the districts wants us to come and talk on they have a program called the Blue, what is it called? Blue Jays. I tried to write it down when I saw it pop up. So that even furthermore helps us. Because even if the students don't watch it, of course the parents will. So then we can, introduce it to them as well. So I'm excited about it.
Mhm.
Mary, I'm kind of curious, since I had asked Taylor, is that something that might be able to be recreated in Mississippi County? What do you think about some of these ideas, and if they could really take shape in Lincoln County too?
Yes, I think, Taylor, I think you've got fabulous ideas.
Well, and I can send you that lesson plan too.
I would love that. I would love that. I think what's really important about a lot of things that you are focusing on is reaching the children, because when we talk about breaking the cycle of violence, it's at the children's level that we need to really target, so these children don't grow up thinking this represents a family, this represents how I treat a woman, this represents how I am treated by a partner. I think that's really important, and to target those kids is a great idea, because you are introducing an idea to them. Because I do training for our new hires with Preferred Family Healthcare, and a lot of their programs are SUD or substance use disorder based. And I always use an example of someone wearing a paper bag over their head. I think everybody here has probably heard me tell the example, but I say, if you go to your home and every time you walk in your home, everybody automatically puts a paper sack on their head, that becomes your normal. That becomes representative of a family. So if Taylor says, hey, come over to my house for dinner, and I walk in her house and nobody's wearing a sack, the first thing I'm going to think of is, what's wrong with Taylor's family? Because that is my normal, and what I think is a family is the abuse, the name calling, the financial abuse, the sexual abuse. That's my normal. And if we really want to make a difference and make the change, it's at that level of kids that you're reaching where it's going to happen, I believe. So I think kudos to you. Those are some fantastic ideas. Yes, absolutely.
Well, and I had middle school students, and that age range is it's dynamic. That's that molding stage. So I always try to give them the opportunity to tell me, how do you feel? What do you want to do? Let's make it happen. And if you can just have those conversations with them, if you can listen to them, if you can reach them on their level, then the sky is the limit, and they are the future. So with everything that's going on, they understand what's going on. And I think that since they are, the future, they'll be molding the next generations. We have to put them in a position to succeed.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. And
So
I don't know about you, but I hear some of our clients will say, the kids don't know what's going on. We don't fight in front of the kids. And I would say, they know, your children know what's going on.
Yes, and they go tell their teachers.
Right.
Which, that's what has helped me be able to, understand how to service one community versus the other. Because I've talked to those kids, and they've mentioned how their parents may have are not there at all, or may have, drug addictions or fight. There's just so much goes on in their lives that sometimes it's just heartbreaking. But
Yes.
be confident in knowing that if you just keep pushing them, good will come from it.
Right. And I think what you're doing is kind of serving as a platform as well for children to have that safe place to reach out to someone and talk about what's going on in their home. Because as a child, it'd be very scary to be in that situation and feel like I've got nobody to talk to. So offering that platform, kind of like the Silhouette Project, and that it's still a platform, a safe place for people to have a conversation and start talking about things. That's where I think change happens.
I just want to hug Mary through the phone.
Yeah, hug.
through Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
and
great.
I love the debit card idea too. We've got a United Credit Union works very closely with our clients, and I am absolutely going to work on that. I think that's a wonderful idea as well.
Yeah.
So, this is actually a big part of why I also wanted to get you both on the same call and have y'all both be on Momentum with me this month. Is a big part of what we've been doing at MCA DSV the last couple of years is not so much creating awareness packets for member agencies to use, but rather giving members ideas from some of the national campaigns that are happening, but also really trying to lift up the work that y'all are doing in your communities and connecting each other. So the two of you both brought to me your really innovative and amazing ideas that y'all are doing. And hearing that from you all made me think, I don't need to be using my time to create a campaign. I need to be connecting folks who are doing this work in communities so that those innovative ideas can just spread around our state. Because you all are the experts in your community and you're doing such really cool things that I think you all need to be connected and we need to be lifting up those efforts more and more.
I agree. Yes.
And then from a coalition's perspective, the last couple of years, well, in 2018, this year as well, but really even outside of election years, midterm election years, we really focused a lot of our efforts around voter engagement, voter registration, and really tying in the fact that, when people are actively participating in their community, when communities are really closely connected, they tend to be safer from experiencing high rates of violence. And so whenever we think about it in that way, civic engagement is a protective factor that keeps communities safe and healthy. And also kind of thinking about it in terms of public policy efforts are something that folks should be engaged in year round, right? And so really making sure that people are registered to vote, are engaged and educated on the different things that are on the ballot, that will directly affect them throughout the year, not just in the month of November, not just in the month of October leading up to an election. So that's where a lot of our efforts have kind of focused the last couple of years. But then being able to talk with y'all and hear about the work that you all are doing is so incredibly inspiring that we really need to hear more of that so that you all are connected to each other as well. And in that way, it kind of reframes, oftentimes we talk about the coalition, but we don't really think about it as the entire Big C movement in Missouri. And that's why I think it's so great to get y'all connected and to be sharing these ideas.
I agree. I agree. So I really think a lot of the programs, it is a big community, connecting locally, but then also connecting statewide. I think it's a great idea because we've got folks that relocate out of Lincoln County most of the time, in fact, and to know these different shelters are out there and different programs are out there, that again is a connection that we can help them make even before they leave shelter. So yeah, we always welcome the opportunity to work hand in hand with other programs.
I recently attended one of the public policy trainings, and it was amazing. And it wheels started turning. Like, okay, well, how can we get people signed to vote? But it was, I think, literally a few days before, I think, the cutoff. So in the future, I definitely think, we could at least help them understand the process, use our internet, come to our computer, just those simple things to make them aware of their options when it comes to voting, help them understand the legislative process. I'm still learning myself, but those basic components of it, if they understand that, then maybe it'll help them better frame what they would like to do when it comes to making a decision. And we're also working on creating a mentorship leadership program for young girls. Hopefully that will start in January, that allows them to stand up and have a say in public policy in our community, and then hopefully it'll grow on larger scale where we take it to, Jefferson City, and, allow them to argue what they feel is important and how their thoughts or their ideas can benefit our community. Because, I mean, similar to, what Mary said about her county, where this county is very poor. And some of their ideas probably could create change. Mississippi County, I think, over the past few years had numerous corporations and businesses, and it's all just dwindled. So something's not right. And I guarantee you, if we listen to the youth who are watching and have all these innovative ideas, then I bet we can make a change here. Would benefit the community as a whole, maybe put a decrease in violence. Because when you don't have a job, you're stressed out, you're, mentally unstable, don't have money, of course you're upset. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be violent, but if we can help in all the way around, maybe we can put a further dent in ending domestic.
That's a great idea.
I love that idea so much, Taylor. I think I just found another topic for a future momentum. But I really appreciate you sharing that program that y'all are working to get started too, because I think that also is a nice segue into one of the national resources that I wanted to share. So I'm actually gonna share my screen, and then I thought we could also just kind of brainstorm and work through this together. So the Domestic Violence Awareness Project is from the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. And one of their Awareness Month tools is this awareness plus action equals social change equation. Part of the reason I think it's so cool is because it gives really specific examples of activities you can do during awareness months that then you can carry over into really specific actions for prevention. And then that can move over into those bigger social change movements. So Taylor, a lot of the things that you were talking about, I think directly meet each one of these. And that's a really cool thing for us to just see laid out on a map, how one thing connects to another and then to another.
Definitely.
So I thought that maybe we could kind of all go through these together and talk about where some of the different activities y'all are doing fall, just so we can give other folks who might be watching and listening an idea of how they can use this same equation and some of these same examples and carry this idea of unity well through the year. So Taylor, I know that you had mentioned a big part of what you're doing today is putting purple ribbons up around town, right?
Yes.
That falls right into these awareness strategies.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been a little workout, but with each business that I visit, I have to have a conversation about it. So I just, a brief overview of why I'm putting this out. I talk about how in the future, I hope that this can become a norm for their business. And then I give them our flyer for Purple Thursday, and tell them, let us see it, the best purple threads that you have, bring it out, show awareness. So I mean, it starts that conversation, and that's what's most important.
Absolutely, we have to get the conversation started, and I really like what you said about norms too. We have to get the conversation started, and there has to be a norm that it's okay to even have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So then moving from awareness into action and thinking about some really specific activities that folks can do to move into more of these really specific prevention-focused activities. Taylor, you had talked about mentorship and youth engagement. And I think that those are really important next steps too. So you all are building that awareness, but you're really focused on providing those mentorship opportunities for youth and getting them engaged.
Yes. Just in looking at some of these strategies, I mean, I feel like these are majority of the things we put on our list to have within that group that we're hoping to start in January. I feel like bringing awareness to this among other situations that are taking place will just ultimately create change within the communities. We also partner with local law enforcement and do trainings for them, which of course helps them be able to serve the victims that they come across in a different light, so that they kind of have an understanding of, what to expect, or what words to use when talking with a victim.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's such a really important piece as well, around organizational development and readiness. And it kind of goes to what Mary was even talking about earlier too, of making sure we're really able to identify and work alongside those community partners.
Yes,
Yeah, just so we can really provide those holistic wraparound services.
definitely.
And then moving into, awareness into action and then creating social change. Again, Taylor, I just want to highlight the really cool idea that you laid out for youth of, if you're creating your own social movement, how would you do that? How would you start organizing to begin with? So really getting that investment and thinking about meaningful collaboration and addressing those social injustices, but introducing that at an early age for young people is such a really cool opportunity.
We had a group of young ladies who stood up for change within our nation in their own special way, and they received a lot of backlash for it. And so I think it's important that we address the different methods that they can use and educate them on public policy and different approaches to adversity. Not to tell them what to say, not to tell them what to do or how to feel, but just the correct approach to getting or to letting people know how you feel and to be able to implement that change.
Yeah, that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so important.
Anthony, I wanted to talk really quickly about the voter awareness and things like that. I think because we're trying to empower our clients, I think that's a very underserved. I think here, personally listening to you guys talk about it, I think that's something that we probably need to improve on. It's very empowering. And for most of our clients that we serve, they have not had that voice before. And so even letting them feel empowered that as one person, they can vote and they can be part of that change at that level is very empowering, I think, for folks who may not have otherwise had the opportunity to learn about the issues, to learn about the candidates, to really, when you're in a DV situation, voting and public policy and things probably is not going to be on the forefront. But this is another way, again, like you said, to engage in the community, to become a part of the community, and also feel empowered that you too have a voice and an opportunity to participate in the process. I think that's great.
Yeah, definitely. And then they can, in educating them on that, they can understand the different steps they need to take in researching, their politicians to see, okay, well, he or she feels this way, and this is how this is going to impact a situation that I've been in. So that they can, spread that information.
Yes, absolutely.
To help create change.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you you mentioning that, Mary, because our public policy director, Jennifer, she talks about that a lot too. Just the importance of voting and voter engagement is a really important piece of like reclaiming your power and feeling really empowered. And it's a form of trauma recovery too, right? The YWCA USA is doing a really great campaign that we've been tying into on our social media. And one of the things that they did, they do a survey of women's top legislative priorities, and they just released that new report earlier this year. And so really thinking about how those legislative priorities directly impact the everyday lives of women and their families. So economic security, healthcare security.
Yes.
The Violence Against Women Act was in the top 5 legislative priorities for women who are registered to vote and participated in the survey. So we start to see all of these connections between there. And yeah, just thinking about how we can really get our communities to be civically engaged and to pick up that sort of change too.
Yes, I agree. Again, I think giving a voice to the voiceless, people who may not have otherwise had the opportunity, or it just isn't something that they think about, because when you're in a domestic violence situation, you always have that safety component to think about each and every single day. But I do think it's empowering for people to think, I can make a difference. I'm one person that I can go out and vote and do my part and share my voice. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Well, I also want to give a moment to kind of walk through this same framework with your examples, Mary. So the silent witness displays and then the big social media campaign just generated so much really cool awareness for your community around the work that you're doing. And so then moving that awareness into action too, are there specific strategies that you can think of, maybe around that organizational development and some of the system change work that y'all are doing?
Right. I do like the youth engagement a lot. I think that is a wonderful suggestion. And again, idea that you're doing, Taylor. I think that is a great idea. But I think just bringing that awareness to our community. But again, I think it's a topic that's it's very uncomfortable. And some of those silhouettes do have an uncomfortable saying on them. But I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And if we're going to make change, we have to talk about things like that. And then again, when talking about it, offer some practical resources. And if I am in this situation, who do I call? And if somebody called me from down in Taylor's area, we would not hesitate to refer them to Taylor's organization. I mean, to me, that's the name of the game. If it's somebody out in Columbia, my daughter works at True North, that would be the automatic connection we would make there. So just tying into those resources, and I don't want to say one-stop shop, but being able to meet people where they are and offer those resources in whatever situation they're in. I want people to always think in Lincoln County, the Robertson Center is a place I can go to, even if we can't directly provide that service. I want people to feel confident that they can call us and we will help make a connection somewhere. Give us a call, we'll talk about it and make some referrals and help out. So.
Mary, I really appreciate you saying that, because I think that's such a great way of wrapping all of this up and tying back around into that theme of unity and how Domestic Violence Awareness Month first got started as that National Day of Unity. And the way that we carry that forward now in 2020 and beyond, the way we carry that forward beyond the month of October, is really to focus on that unity aspect of it. So making sure that we are connected around our state with one another, that we can amplify each other's efforts, but that we're also making sure we do really work closely together, really intentionally year round.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Well, I also want to give just a quick moment for final thoughts. We covered a lot in our conversation today. I want to thank you both so much for sharing all of your brilliance and expertise and the work that you're doing. So any final thoughts that y'all want to share?
One thing that Lincoln County started recently is a Facebook page devoted to, it's called Lincoln County Cares. It's devoted to every social service agency in Lincoln County. So if somebody's got an announcement to make, or let's say there's a food pantry that's going to be open, they're going to have the dates and the times on that. If there's anything, our support groups that we're doing virtually, that's all available on the Lincoln County Cares Facebook page as a way, again, to access all those resources in one combined effort and, again, help each other out. So
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Any final thoughts, Taylor? Not to put you on the spot.
No, I would just say, just kind of glancing back at the awareness and action, it's important right now, especially going through this pandemic, to be creative. And as Mary did, utilize social media. I've made Facebook posts, and I've tried to be consistent with it on a daily basis, but I haven't had that reach yet. But just understanding and being creative virtually on how to reach and inform the community is super important. Thankfully, we've been able to stay open pretty much this entire time and still serve our community. We're slowly letting people into our adult education program and bringing in the kids to the trauma-informed groups that we have, like Taekwondo, and we even started a coding league. So just trying to use all of these different groups to tailor in everything that we have here and bring awareness and preventative information to everyone, everything that we have going on. But I think it's important for everyone that's watching to just put their heads together and come up with something, in case faced with more adversity as we have with COVID, for sure.
right. Mm-hmm.
That's a really great point, Taylor, and I appreciate you mentioning that too, because that is a really important piece of this conversation, but also a really important piece of our work as a coalition is to put our heads together and be thinking creatively and being able to respond in crisis, whether that's an individual crisis that someone might be having in the moment or a global health crisis like the pandemic and how that affects people's individual lives, and how we all are really being called on right now to, just as you said, put our heads together, be really creative, and make sure that we're meeting the needs of people in our community.
Yes, definitely. Well said.
Well, it is October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but it's also the month of Halloween. So I like to end our webcast episodes with just kind of a random question that is still topical, but maybe a little more lighthearted. So throwing the question out, what is your favorite Halloween candy? And I'll give y'all a moment to think about it because I already know mine. So I am a big fan of candy in general, but I have a really nostalgic memory of popcorn balls with Red Hots in them.
No.
Wow. Okay.
Red
And I
Hots?
loved popcorn balls as a kid, and my mom would make them for me to be able to give out to my class in school.
Aww.
And that was always what I wanted for Halloween, were popcorn balls.
And Red Hots, I'll be darned.
Wow. I always thought they were too sticky.
That's the point.
Or, it gets stuck in your teeth. I'm candy corn, traditional candy corn.
Yes. Yeah. I would say probably I've been stealing peanut butter cups out of my kids' bags for years. So I'm going to go with peanut butter cups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a really close second for me, Mary. I'm a big fan of the peanut butter cups too.
Right. And I like candy corn. I can't say I've probably ever had a popcorn ball. I guess I'm sure I have at some point, but I do like candy corn. Although, Taylor, I'm going to say I'm going to be an autumn mix kind of gal, though.
No autumn mix. I don't like the pumpkin. Simple.
Yellow, orange, and white.
Yellow, orange, and white.
Right.
Simple, traditional candy corn. Nice. Well, thank you both for sharing your candy preferences. But like I also said, for sharing your expertise and your brilliance with me, with each other, and then with our larger coalition. I'm really excited to be able to lift up the work that y'all are doing and share that out with other people. So I really appreciate y'all taking the time to share that with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be a part of it.
Definitely.
All right, well, thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.